Hey everybody, welcome back. Happy Friday to you. Good to be back here with you for our markets and sectors class. We got plenty to look at today. Hey, what's been added to the S&P 500? What companies have raised their dividends? We like to talk about those things as well. But what's going on with the economy as well? We did see some CPI numbers, but folks, importantly too, I did want to take a look and just see what's going on in terms of particular sector. Are there any buy signal indications that some traders might be looking for in terms of prices breaking above, let's say, for example, an important moving average that just maybe happened and as of the last couple of days within a trend? So some interesting things to look at. Great to be back here with you all, folks, for our last, I think it's our last session of the day. I believe it is. Is there one more? There could be one more. It is on the ThinkScript. We finish off Thursdays on ThinkScript, but I believe so. Now I'm curious. I've got to find out just super fast. Uh, do we Producers tell me it is the last show. Thank you. Saved me time looking it up. And there we go. All right, you guys. Well, hey, good to be with you. And good to see all of the comments, everybody in the chat. Of course, that's what that chat's for. Those comments. Love those comments. We've even taken topic requests in that chat. Questions, of course. We've got a great person in there I've got a ton of confidence in. Great friend of mine, and it's just great to have him on board to support me. That is Brent Moores, folks. Be sure to check out Brent Moores CS on X. Post some really great stuff out there. I'm Mike Fairborn CS, and with that, let's turn it to some disclosures. So we got to look at a few things here. All right. First off, Paper Money software application is provided for education purposes only. Material presented here today is for general and education purposes only as well. And let's see, investing involves risk, including the loss of principal, and for some products or strategies, more than the loss of your initial investment. Also noted, past performance no guarantee of future results. I did list the futures disclosures, and those are great to have because then we can look at futures. We don't trade them in this class, but did want to state futures and futures option trading does involve substantial risk. It's not suitable for all investors. Now, some additional points in here too, and I did want to state that dividend investing, or just dividends themselves, are subject to be cut at any time. Did want to talk about some dividends today as well. But before we do that, we have to look at the markets. So let's get rolling. Here we go. Oh, geez, I'm going to take us right to our sectors. Well, let me just do this. Let me just backstep a little bit, go right back over to our regular charts because we are going to look at some sectors. They're getting some interesting indications from relative performance out there. And I'm going to zoom in over here and go back. I'm going to set this back up. I flipped this yesterday for the ThinkScript class, and I'm going to flip it back. I'm just going to resave that grid. If you guys are using those grid charts, very, very helpful up here just to get daily 5, daily 35, whatever you want to look for. I even snuck in a weekly over here on those, but very, very helpful. Quick way to pull up things. All right. With that said, SPX had to bounce, had to pull back, folks. We had some CPI numbers come in that were kind of interesting in terms of, well, hey, it was the big thing, 0.01% month over month CPI increase. So not a lot of inflation, right? That's a big positive. The question is, and the market always does this, how can we balance it out with growth? We did see some good growth in terms of earnings growth, and that's what really accounted for that big jump above those highs. And that is interesting to see. I'm just going to keep those lines on there. I know they're kind of annoying because, we really can't quite see everything here, but right over here, did want to show you. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, this big jump over here, that's earnings related. A lot of that we had some good, entering into earnings season over here. We do know that the summer rally oftentimes will extend to about the 30th of August. That still leaves us some time for what could be a bullish type flag pull, a breakout. And I've got one on two scales to look at here. Of course, this first one is our triangle pattern right here. In fact, let's just go full screen while we've got it. So here we go. So we've got this over here. Longer term, we saw this big rally up, and I've got this big longer term extension, but really to kind of fit within the summer rally time frame, which is right about the 31st, right about over here. We don't always get the summer rally, but oftentimes we will. And you know what fits kind of squarely in that is that shorter term flag, not this giant one over here. Let me change some colors. And what I'll do is I'll just show you this one here. So this rally up here, right? Measuring this off the top of this is about there, roughly there. It's close to that 8,200 level. And we're still setting up pretty interesting for that. What's interesting is after that August, as we're talking about big picture markets, we do oftentimes get hit on style. We'll just go into our seasonal mode real quick. This is the general pullback. Okay, let's just go. I got to set this up. This would be a good one to actually have right here, already saved as a percentage. Why don't I have it over here? I'm going to have to kill something. That's why. I'll get rid of one of these so it doesn't group them all together where I can actually see them very quickly in a presentation. But I'm going to do that next go around for us. But this is the key thing I wanted to let you know because, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, and more. Once we reach that end of August, right about there, what do you see? Well, that's when we get that seasonal pullback. And I've seen it go to the first part of October. I've seen it go to the middle of October. But as of more recently, we've actually been rallying for the year-end rally. They call it sometimes the end of year rally. I don't think it's the Santa Claus rally until we're actually in December. Of course, that is still part of the year-end rally. But that's oftentimes what will happen on that S&P 500. Now watch this. If I just go over here, I'm going to just show you the 10-year, show you how similar it is. Look at this. Okay, it peaks a little bit more into, a couple days later. Summer rally extended over that time frame on average, but look at the same dip. Dip, 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 dip. First part of October. Put that on your radar. We need to be aware of that because what a lot of times happens, and this is not the area you want to be in as an investor. You don't want to say, if we follow that. Now, this is an average and things can change, right? This is made up of years of upward moves and downward moves, but on average, generally, this is the movement of the market. But what we don't want is like to say, oh, great time to get in here necessarily. And then we start to see it come down, 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 down. And then what happens right there? Well, that's sometimes people say, well, gosh, market's been going down. I've had enough of this. Just in time for the rally. That was me years and years ago. I mean, that's, just these are some of the things we're trying to avoid. And I want to share those with you guys so you can see them now. We can see it in hindsight. This is a visual of hindsight. This line, that 10-year average of the S&P 500 over a seasonal path is in hindsight, but we're looking in foresight now. We can see it now and watch it going forward. So let's keep eyes on that. But my point is here is we still have time for that shorter term rally to go up higher. And let's just go back to it now. I've got to resave this in my grid as the SPX, but there you have it. So maybe there is that rally up to, roughly that 82 inside of a bigger run. We'll see. Okay, I had to throw it out there because, I mean, look at this. We just broke out. We are flagging and we need to kind of keep close eyes on this so that we are on the right side of it. All right. Within the S&P, well, let's do this. I'm going to hit the NDX and the RTY. NDX here, or the RUT, I should say, very similar. Now, you'll notice one key thing, though. What are you getting? This did not break above the highs. So it was a big enough pullback. It was a bigger pullback than the S&P 500 for sure. But also, you add that all in together, we're just not anywhere near the highs. The S&P 500 is higher. There is an ETF for the S&P 500 equal weighted. This is the index, though, SPXEW, equal weight. What do you think we're going to get here? All-time highs today or yesterday? Breadth of the market is strong still. That has really been bolstering a lot of just the ES. And that's why I mean, one of the reasons why the ES is above this level. One of the reasons why the ES didn't dip lower than the NASDAQ as tech was falling apart. The question is what do we get with tech? Does tech begin to bounce higher now? Because it's a little bit lagging, right? It's that kind of an insight. Do we see tech lag now? and lag previously and then really break higher. Technology has really been one of the bigger gainers out there. And, for the S&P 500, in order for that to happen too, it's going to be like tied into like the Mag 7. And we created our own. There is an ETF for the Mag 7, but, we don't talk about ETFs here. We have a class for that. But when we add them all together, there is your Mag 7. And what do you see? A little bit of consolidation, right? It's a triangle, the classic Elliott wave in terms of a triangle. Remember, he counted them in A, B, C, D, and then E. Now, E can be sort of like an E wave failure is what they refer to as, where it doesn't have the full extension, maybe back into an area that sometimes traders would anticipate. In fact, we've been going into a sideways range, so we may have already completed that and possibly on the verge of this. Now, if that does break out, and we still see the S&P 500 equal weight, the breadth of the market, which has been very strong, just at least sustain itself to a degree, that might account for that short-term flag to the upside. Does that make sense? Remember, this accounts for roughly, I know we talk about it every week, but we do get new folks in here every week too, so I want to repeat it, but 47% plus approximately of the S&P 500 is the Mag 7. That's nuts. But it's almost, I mean, in my mind, in my book, that's dang close to 50%, approximately, right? We're getting upwards of 50%. It's a big, big mover. So watching this could make a lot of sense. Now, is it going to let me? I do this every week, and sometimes it'll let me, and sometimes it won't. But can I come in here and draw a trend line off my created Mag 7? I think I can have one in at a time. But let's just see. Trend line break? Because the trend line break can give us the early sign of a breakout. It did it. See that? It will allow us to do it. At least in this demo account, it's one at a time. But now we can use this as an interesting guide because if this starts to move, that could be kind of on a how would I say it? A relative scale on the S&P 500. It accounts for a lot. So watching this move, if that is an Elliott wave, sort of a triangle in there, boom. I mean, it could extend the length of this biggest leg here. So just watch it. Watch it close. This is a sensitivity measure on if the S&P 500 breaks higher, but there you go. That's the leg. That's the leg. That could be a big move. And technology doesn't surprise me. That's not that big, actually. I mean, we had it over here. We had more than that move over here. But if you break above that upper triangle, that we take the largest extension. That's off the charts. I don't even know what that is, but it's up there. And you could actually watch this progress if, in fact, it unfolds that way going forward. Now, I do need to note, a quick note on this is that because I did pull it up, but just to state this, because alerts are different from watching the stock. They're not guaranteed to be delivered at any specific time or speed or time frame. And mine have I've this okay, the alerts that I've done during the day, they've delivered for years and years and years. I haven't had any issues, but we just there's no substitute for looking at the stock. But yeah, this is I find it to be an effective tool. Okay, but didn't want to read that disclosure. Okay, so with all that, don't you guys just love how I make the disclosures much longer than they should be? But uh, I'll learn eventually, maybe. Look at this. Look at the money flow. Oh, money flow. Collective money flow is already breaking out. And what does that tell us from a trader perspective? That tells us this. See that high right there? It says we should take out that high because collectively, and this is the beauty of this with the Thinkorswim platform, Mag 7 up here, it adds up all that volume. Collectively, it's showing accumulation. That is very, very interesting to see. Now, talk about a sensitivity measure. That's a sensitivity measure behind the scenes. In other words, we were getting probably some pretty big buyers coming in here, especially, and this is a very, very key point, and relative to the sellers that were getting out. Okay. Good buying, in other words, big volume on the up days, light volume on the down days. That's what the money flow excels at. Nothing's 100%, but again, we're trying to improve our expectations for insights here. Okay, that was a lot on the market, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes here, and I had to show it to you guys. Okay, quick note on this. That's how you do it, though. If you wanted to pull up any, you want to create your own sort of mini sort of an index in a sense. You're just creating a basket of stocks. Just put that plus sign in between. I don't know if this works anymore. Maybe Brent can help me on this. I used to be able to put in like, honestly, I did this. I'd do like such and such divided by this, and I could do all kinds of math, but I think they put a halt to that. It was probably making creating chaos on the back end. A lot of data, going out, or well, I don't know what was going on, but anyways, I think that stopped unless differently. Tesla, by the way, it looks like the only one. Ooh, that was after a big dip that's up today. Apple up a little bit, and then it had a big dip, right? So there you go. All right, let's do this. Let's go ahead and take a look at what has been added to the S&P 500. And why we go into this too? Wait, I wanted to take a look at the small caps too, really quick, because I did want to get into our core presentation is how can we look for specific buy signals in the upcoming week just by using a real basic script, one that's different from last week, though. I want to break that down into more detail here for you in just a second. I have a couple of things to show you, though, too, real quick first. There's the Russell. A lot of times, small caps can lead the way. And what are we getting here? A new high in the Russell. So I believe this is an all-time high in the Russell. We are hitting an all-time high in the Russell right now. How do you say that's not a positive, an all-time high? I mean, it's high, it's going up now. Could there be pullbacks? Yes, but look at the trend. The trend is up as well. Maybe it finds support like it just did. Maybe it bounces, but that's an indication of strength. Things can change, and they change fast in the market, but that has been known as a sort of a bullish, not sort of, it is a bullish signal, you know, um, for sure. I mean, by a lot of traders, they'll look at that. If it breaks down, it's also an indication of prices dipping too. All right, a couple things. Now, when you add into the S&P 500 stocks, sometimes those stocks can get a bounce because if you think about all of the other products out there that have all the stocks in the S&P 500 and they need to rebalance, sometimes there are some additions and some purchases being made. And so I'm not going to get all the details, but that's a lot of times analysts will tell us Reddit has been added to the S&P 500. Oh, 18th. I'm sorry, it's added on the 18th. I think it was announced now. I have seen, doesn't happen every time, but I have seen additions to the S&P 500 start the movement of a stock going forward. Now, it can help at the bottom, but then again, if you don't have earnings that also come through, it's not, I mean, stocks in the S&P 500 fall on bad earnings, but that's your earnings jump right there. We had a couple others this week. Here's one in June. I'll just go back a couple of weeks because I do like to hit this at least once a month. This one was added, Honeywell A Aerospace, HONA, was added to the S&P 500 like, what its parent company, I suppose. Honeywell International, HON, but yeah. So we had HONA right there, but that gapped down. That's not a good sign if you spin off a stock, right? Last one, FERG Ferguson, I think. Yeah. So they were added, and that was added on August the 5th, right? Okay, so it was announced before it was added, but it's pulled back. Interesting. So those are some of your additions right there. Um, a couple of big increases in terms of dividends, and then we're going to get onto our core presentation here, but I just want to highlight these. We do these like at least once a month, but CBOE did announce a pretty big dividend increase right there. Do you see that? 72 cents to 86 cents right there. I'm going to show you how you can track those dividends on schwab.com. They just had a new release of a dashboard. If anybody's using that yet, I'm going to show you how to use it really quick. But you can see that right there. That right there, have the numbers here, 19% increase in the dividend. And one of the reasons why we go through these is because if a company can raise the dividend, remember they're not paying that dividend with IOUs or bonds or pay you later type thing, whatever it is. They're paying it with cash, meaning oftentimes that if you get a dividend increase, it can be a sign of fundamental strength too. within that company, if they have that money that they can pay out in cash. So some traders will use this as sort of a trading technique that income-minded investors will use for strength. You can see 72, 72, 72, 72 cents, 86 cents, the 19% increase. TPR, is that Tupperware? No, Tapestry. They're raising their dividend. Maybe they're thinking they shouldn't have after that earnings announcement, but this will raise the dividend yield all else equal. But I'm sure they probably knew what their earnings would be, but they did raise the dividend. Anyways, wow, that's interesting. I don't know. Sometimes you have to look at those a little bit more. I'm just going to hit like the top three. Let's see, uh, excuse me, PPBN, BN. There you go. No, don't know about those guys. And then HRB, that was a 10% increase in HRB. I've heard of these guys, H&R Block. They raised theirs a total of about 10% as well. Last one, ENS, also a 10% dividend raise right there over here. I think it's coming up. So anyways, these could be interesting for income-minded investors. Let's switch over here because speaking of dividends, have you guys seen this on Schwab.com? This could be helpful. I do use Schwab.com. I know many of you guys do too. But look over here. Um, yeah, go into research, go to stocks. This is just the demo account. And type in a symbol. Say Apple over here, put enter, and there you go. This right here is brand new, folks. It is a big help if you're using the Schwab platform at all. This right there, that's brand new. Before, it wasn't so easy. You had to go like this and scroll down and find each one of these. And then to get the core information, you'd have to click on show more to open them up. But like, for example, dividends, a little bit tricky. They don't give you everything until you open it all up. If you click on dividends here, just speaking of dividends, there you go right there. So CBOE, how does their dividend increase over time look? We just looked at that one raising at 19%. Dividends, take a look at it. Whoa. So they've been a pretty steady increaser year over year over year for quite some time, but they're raising it again. This behind the scenes just shows you what the stock performance has been relative to the dividends. So you always get a view of stock performance behind the scenes. Last one, I'm just going to show you super quick earnings as we are in earnings season. This is nice as well because it does the same thing for you. And this is helpful right off schwab.com. And that's this. You can see are the estimates, year-end estimates increasing or not? Well, they've had a history of increasing, haven't they? That's pretty cool. We are on an annual. We can look at it quarterly too, but you see how the share price tends to rise above. I mean, share prices have been going up with earnings. Big correlations, not perfect correlations, but over longer periods of time, it is interesting. Notice, though, too, revenues going down a little, expected revenues. So anyways, wanted to show you guys that. That is brand new as of this week. Save you some time. Otherwise, you're going to click, 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 one of those as opposed to just a click. Okay, let's move into our sectors here. If we look at our sector grid, let's go full screen as well. Now, looking for sector strength specifically, we can go through here and I can highlight, some of these are going to stick out pretty well. Materials, by the way, flat for a long time, just a little bit of a bounce here. Has anybody been watching gold? Gold kind of shows some strength when there's some concern about where the economy might go. Park that in the back of your mind. Materials. I want to address materials today. I want to look at tech stocks as well. But look at that. It's just barely starting to move. We could see it a lot better if I'd actually maximize that grid right there. See it? Oh, similar high, similar high, similar high, except we're looking at all of the material stocks within the S&P 500 for a gauge right there. And now we're kind of coming back and rusting a little bit. So maybe we bounce. Maybe we start to go a little bit higher here. One to maybe keep an eye on. Now, I'm going to share this right now. Think scripts aren't guaranteed for timeless or accuracy, but I'm going to go ahead and just post this into this is actually just a grid. It's not actually a think script, but I'll post it here, and I always put it below the description section for those of you that are viewing it on the recorded section, but here it is. I'll just call it, let's see. Yeah, sector grid, sector charts. Many of you already have this, but in case you want to use it, it's a good way to see what the companies are doing within the 11 S&P 500 sectors. Our reference key down here is the S&P itself. Now, the other one that's been moving, but it has been a little bit volatile, is that right there. That is energy. Energy breaking above that range right there. Now, that right there is a cup and handle in the eyes of a lot of investors. Maximize. Okay, right there. Cup and handle gives you that rounded bottom. Sometimes it'll be a double bottom, but it will also give you the bull flag at the end. And we're already starting to see signs of strength. Now, if this were to take off higher, I'm looking at the high between this range here. I'm going to measure that to the upside. And right there, there could be, in other words, there could be some more moves in store right there in terms of energy, right? So just park that in your mind. This could be a very fun one. Whatever one we're going to be looking at, we're going to break it down for you to see. And this is going to be it's going to be a little bit quicker even than last week in terms of maybe finding some breakouts with this scan. It's just we got to be able to find potential buying setups that traders might be interested in, right? That's, I think, a key point to look at. So with that, the last one I'll just highlight. Financials have been quite strong. This was just kind of steady as she goes, as you can see right there. It's just like higher highs, higher lows, very, very consistent. Technology, though, right here, and this could bode well for the market, but just looking at technology stocks alone, just technology stocks, look over here. That is kind of a bull flag too. And this rests higher than the NASDAQ 100. So this break takes out these prior highs. We didn't do that on the NASDAQ. So we're kind of looking at that MAG 7 and some of the other tech stocks out there, semiconductors for sure, sort of the AI group of stocks to help us up higher here. That's why I want to keep an eye on. Maybe this could be our third, well, potentially our third sector to take a look at. Okay. So that could be of interest too. So let me do this right here. I'm going to pull this guy up and I'm just going to do one thing. Okay. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. So let me do this. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say, um, let's go into it now and let's look at these now materials. Let's go. Oh, one last thing. Look at this on a relative strength basis. Sector grid. So now comparing to the S&P 500, we're getting into that now. You can see technology, ooh, actually starting to move here too. So stronger than the S&P, right? Materials actually not as strong. Now, this is collectively materials. If we just look at gold stocks, quite a difference. Let's go over here and take a look at gold itself. GC, there's gold. This is the rally off of gold. Now, right now, that's already extended up about 13% from low to high. We're actually getting a little bit of a dip here and a bounce. Now, obviously, these are gold futures. There is an ETF for gold, but one thing we can talk about in this class specifically is, say, for example, gold stocks. Now, keep in mind what we just looked at. We just looked at the sectors. And within the sectors, there's a lot more than just gold. There's aluminum, there's steel. Gosh, there's all kinds of stuff in there that might not really run with precious metals. Look at this right here. NEM. You guys see the bounce? Newmont Mining, gold miners. Wow. This is a 6-month dip. We're just getting moving here. Keep an eye on this, right? This definitely broke above some recent moving averages like this last week and even some of this week too. AEM, Agnico Eagle, I'm showing you the two that are US based. There are some risks to going outside the US on these gold mines. There's risk to any stock, but especially when, they're getting the majority of their gold outside the US. Here's Agnico Eagle. Pretty strong move over here, even taking out these prior highs. And by the way, this is interesting too. If I go over here and I look at let's just throw a fib out here. I like to use closing prices though, right there. We're getting very, very close to our 50% level, seeing some strength in the money flow. RSI's had a run. You can see us moving up. We're above the 38.2 right now. But yeah, I mean, this is interesting because we're seeing some strength in the sector itself. So keep that in mind. Folks, if you are getting value out of these presentations, smash that like button. It lets us know, Brent and I know, in terms of what we're doing. And if you get value out of it, but only smash it if you're getting value. That's the key thing. In addition, be sure to follow us though on X, as I mentioned, and then on our channel, Trader Talks. Love to have you guys on board. Let me just see how high we are on that Trader Talks too. I like to check that once a week, but I think many of you already are subscribed. But if you come over here, okay, 208,000. I'll put this in the chat so you can subscribe if you're interested. But you do get the playlists in here. These are very nice to take a look at. Like I mentioned, Brent's got some great stuff in here. Bear calls, bull puts. Check it out. Using Thinkorswim. Getting used to that, understanding it. Very helpful class. Other coaches in here as well. Let me just go ahead and post that in to the chat. There you have it. And perfect. All right. And then great. Let's continue on. Oh, by the way, there's a survey link in the chat too. So yeah, if you get a chance to fill that out, really appreciate it. My manager looks at that. I like to look at that too. 10 if you loved it, 1 if you hated it. There's a there's just 2 questions, really. There's comments in it. I do like those topics. That's a good place to put in topic requests too, by the way. You can kind of extend those out a little bit. All right, let's continue on here. Now, getting into kind of our core discussion sorry, we had to build up to that. But what I want to do is looking over here at these levels. In fact, if you look at Agnico Eagle right now, and by the way, here's one outside the US. Notice it doesn't quite run as much. US has consistency. One thing I've noticed, and I don't like to say this, but I have been in gold stocks previously that have been outside the US. And man, I'll tell you what happens. When the price of gold goes up and up and up and up and up, the people that are in these different countries, they like to form little groups and go in and just take the gold because yeah, it's worth so much. In the US, we were able to stop that a little bit easier, but when that happens, you can really see some havoc. And sometimes the countries will be taken over by militaries. And what happens then is the military says, no, now you pay us if you want to be in the gold mine. Otherwise, we're just going to do it ourselves. And boom, that can kill the share price. I'm just saying there's some big risks also to these other areas, but whatever the case might be, look at this with me. If I go over here and I just throw on like something that's like an intermediate term move, the a 50-day moving average, really interesting. Okay, we broke above that and we actually jumped up, quite a bit. These over here, really quite early. For a little bit longer term to intermediate, this is what I'm working up to, is the 100. I'm going to put this plot on. I'm going to take this one off because this is oftentimes what traders are looking for the next possible set of, flag patterns in the direction of the trend. Okay. Have you ever noticed the 100-day moving average? Come over here with me. Look at this. Boom. Look over here. Oh, I didn't know it'd be like that. But just staying above the 100, how many, just as that as a reference, just as a reference alone, how many swing trades could have been done over here? If you got a hold at the bottom of a move or you saw the flag pattern start to break, we held above that 100 for a while, but we've been below it for a while too. We just got above it. Just got above it. How many other companies in technology might have just started to get out of that base? Uh, we looked at technology or energy as well. Could we start to see the first signs of really intermediate term trending where there are those swing trade potentials in there? Talk a lot about that, in the swing trade class, but look at this. I'm just going to go over here right into the scan. You guys are going to be able to build this with me right now. The 100 though, whatever one you want to put in, the 100 is often used for kind of that swing trade because you're getting intermediate. Come down here, go to study, Click on the pen right there. Pull it up. First thing you got to do, delete this, but you're going to be able to build this one yourself. Add condition. All I'm looking for is this. I'm going to say, I want the price, and that's the closing price. A lot of different prices we can choose, but I wanted to cross above exactly that study. But it has to be in that regard. There is your simple. Now you have to select it down here. You got to change it. Otherwise, it'll just go to the default. So there is the 100 right there. Okay. This is oftentimes the bigger one. Go back and take a look and confirm that for yourself, though. If you want to see those that are strong and have a historical tendency. Now, backtesting results can change, but breaking above that 100, oftentimes, if the trend's going, if there's something to it, it's to get above the 100 too. It's sometimes, it's not like 200, that's kind of like really long term. A lot of times you see the 100 hit first and then maybe the 200 after. Okay. But I want this not within one day. That's really short term. That means I got to run this sucker every single day to see it. Otherwise, I lose it. But what if I said at least 5 days? I'm going to create it right now. In fact, we're going to turn it into a dynamic watch list so it's here for you guys, which means I am going to save this. But I wanted to show you how you can build it easily if you wanted a short-term one or whatever. You got it right there at your fingertips. It's so simple. One last week, a little bit more complex, but look at this. Click OK. NASDAQ 100. I mean, I can look at that, but I can also do this if I wanted to. I could go down and look at specifically those industries or sectors, I should say, that were of interest to us on the charts that we were looking at, right? We came over here. Energy was one of them. What if I come over here? Oh, shoot. Well, let me just do this. I'll show you how to do it. I want to run it across everything, but it can be sector specific. We want the S&P 500 to intersect with, how about an industry? How about the entire energy industry? Because if I did that, you know what that's doing? That is pulling all of the stocks that are right here. Just to put it in context so you know exactly what's going on. This energy right there, it's pulling every one of those guys that make up this chart. Scan. You have to be in the 500. Next tab, intersect with energy. I did the 5-day. You see something just breaking above? Yeah. These guys are, notice some of these names? Chevron. Chevron. I've heard of Chevron. You guys have too. I think many of you have. Look at this. Let's go over here. CVX. There's a lot in there though to look at. Okay, I got to put my 100 on again. That's why I keep these over here. But that's really kind of the key one that I think a lot of traders will use on the more of a swing trade time frame. Boom, right there. Did that find anything interesting there for us? Perhaps it did. This is sort of a breakout test, 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 test. Lines up as like support, right? And then right there. So I'm going to do this for this class because we do like to put some trades on as well and track these. But I know I realize it's almost a $200 stock, but I'm going to do it anyways just to have it here. Let's just do this. I'm going to right click, buy custom, just a sample trade. Click over here. It might extend again. There are risks to energy though. Okay, keep that in mind. Is this too expensive? Maybe 100 shares. I'm just doing it. It's just a paper trade anyway. So some might just go at 50, right? Tab through, link it up. I'm going to set this up a little bit higher. I'll show you why. As a swing trade here, I'll go 195 and confirm and send. Always read that dialog box. See where your buying power effect is as well. Make sure that fits for you. There you go, go, go. Okay, if I was looking at this as maybe an extended bull flag, I can do it. I like to draw it out so I can see it. There are some fancy ways to do it, but look at this. If I just go there, click, that's the pole. If you come over here and you just activate it and drag it over there, that's your target. Oh my God. My gosh. I don't think I've ever done that before. I hit it just almost right on it. I was just guessing, estimating in my head. Maybe I'm getting better at this. I don't know. Are my eyes picking up on something? I don't know. But anyways, it's kind of funny. You do it enough, so you start to do these things. Sure you guys have seen that, but there you go. That could be the target of the flag right now. Energy collectively, we saw it in this class on that chart, some strength on the sector. This is one that popped up too. Actually, I sent a little X post on this because, well, I'm not going to do it there or there. Gosh. All right. I can't just throw it out here, but I'm just going to show you guys this. This is interesting. This was in a class we talked about. We've been reviewing a indicator for the past few weeks now because it's so in depth, but it's just called the volume trend block engine. There's the whole name of it right there. But actually, on an intraday basis, yesterday, it was showing the potential for this. This just helps to try to identify institutional buys and sells. 76% buy, 24% sells. This was a big one, a doozy, 91 to 9, and to match up to 100. But this right there suggested there was some big buying going on behind the scenes and maybe the possibility of a bounce. Now, what I always say on this, though, in oil, have we seen news change things? Yes. This is kind of a diversified group in that regard, but yes, oil can still play. I mean, it could still, depending upon what happens, yeah, it can hit, but we were seeing like right in here, what you were just seeing on that 15-minute chart, that's not going to do it. You were seeing this right here saying there was maybe some really big potential big buyers behind that. And sometimes when that happens, you will get enough pressure to break through those highs. And these were some highs. I mean, this high extends from here, 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 some of it over here too, and here. But I mean, we took out a longer term range, but we did see it with that indicator. If you guys want to take a look at that, that is on, I'll just send out if you want to. But it is interesting. It's more of a shorter term indication that could be tied into a longer term move. That's how we decided to use it. But I'll put the link in here if you don't have it, if you are interested. But there are other tools we can look at, as we go through this. But here it is right there. So this is the Think script. We discussed some of this in the other ones too, but that's just the sort of the playlist. All right, folks, remember there is a survey link in the chat. Thank you, Brent, for posting that. Folks, that was a lot. Do this. Go back in for homework, and I'm going to share this with you just so you have it. Yeah, good. Okay, so I'm going to share this. Let me save it first. I'm just going to call it, not that. I'm going to call it just exactly what it is. Simple MA break 100. And I'm going to put over here swings. Okay. So I've saved that. And now that I've saved it, I can come over here and make it dynamic so that, oh, well, here's the thing. You might not want energy. Let me resave it to this. Before I even share this with you guys, this is going to be on the S&P 500. Always feel free to go in here and change this. But the dynamic watch list would just be linked to energy. That might not always be relevant to you guys. So let's go over here. I'm going to save this. Again, you have to save it the way that it is if you want it to show up on the dynamic watch list. What I mean by dynamic, that was a simple moving average cross, but this one's more specific to, there it is, the swing trading in particular. And there it is. It's going to pop up right now. See it? There it is. So every single day, you don't need to run that scan again. It will just give you what's broken above the 100 in the last 5 days, because that's part of it right there. And you guys build it. Here it is right there. Again, now this is a Think script. It's not guaranteed for timeless or accuracy, but we do have good data coming to the platform. And with the good data, it can be helpful. I'm going to save this link in the description section down below. And also quickly, folks, if you're not familiar with how to use this, you got to go into setup, open shared items, post it in there, preview it, name it something you'll recognize, and then click import, because you're going to have to find it in the scan tab in that library right there. The load, it'll be in your personal folders right over there. Boom. Okay, folks. Well, we went through that. We went through our sector analysis. We went through a lot of different things in there. Y'all have a great weekend, says Will. And thanks to you. Thank you, Will. You too. All right, Barry. Thank you. Thanks everybody for sticking it out this week in the markets. Just thanks for attending, really. But you guys did stick it out week in the markets. Thank you, Brent, so much for your help as always. Guys, I look forward to future discussions with you. And have a fantastic rest of the day and weekend coming up. See you next time.